Okay, this is a video about the Whynter 12,000 BTU dual hose air conditioner, and I'm going to get right to one part of this section so I can get the air on in my shed because it's pretty warm. First thing is I'm going to check the amp draw when I turn this thing on. Alright. Now this thing doesn't come on and go directly into cooling. If you have power off and you turn it on like after a power outage, it will come on in the last mode it was in. So if it was on in cool mode, it will come on in cool mode. But it waits 3 minutes to engage the compressor. So what I want to do is get the readings on the amps that this thing pulls. So on. And then we're going to wait for 3 minutes. I'll just continue filming, but I'll just speed up the filming so we can get an indication of how many amps this thing pulls. Okay, so it's just started up, and it's going to it went up to like 10.6 amps, which is more than than it says that it's normally draws. The specs, if I remember correctly, were 9 amps. I'll double check that. If you see something below or in the bottom of the picture, that'll be what they claim it is. Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I've got this thing rigged up, and then I'll come back to that and see if the amperage goes down. Looks like it is, but we'll come back in a little bit. So first off, it's very difficult to show you how this is hooked up, but it's basically, that's the intake hose, and this is the exhaust hose. Now the exhaust hose gets hot, and I recommend you put insulation around it. Now if you don't, and you've got it stretched really long, it will actually heat up the room about as fast as the air conditioner can remove the heat. I would recommend you put insulation on it no matter what the length is. I also recommend that you put insulation on the intake, especially if it's really hot where you live, like it is here. I don't have it because at this time I couldn't find insulation the right size. The lowest size I could find was 8 inches. So before we go outside and look how it is outside, I'll explain the things that I wasn't too pleased with when I got this. One is that this opening at the top is not really aimable. You can't adjust these louvers up and down. You can just sort of move this up and down. You can move this side to side a very small amount. Unit sometimes seems to rattle, and on the back of the unit where the drain is, if you want to hook it up in a permanent location, you have to hook a hose up to the back so it can constantly drain. Otherwise, you might have to shut it down and drain it every once in a while. The problem with this is that the connector that's on the back, the threads, are almost, but not quite, the same as a common garden hose connector. They're almost, but not quite. And in doing some research, you have to use, or they want you to use or order their special hose. Now, I was able to get mine to work by taking a plastic standard garden hose connector, cutting part of it off and putting it in the hole. There's a hole in the center of the plug, and then this rubber plug is in there. When it tightens down, it holds this in place. And then I put a standard garden hose washer inside that. Once I did that, you know, I could hook up a standard garden hose, or I could adapt that to anything I wanted, which I did. I used some clear tubing, and then I routed that to the outside. I'm just going to show you what I've got on the outside. These are vents that I got from Home Depot. The one that you'll see by itself is the exhaust, and it has a flapper in it. The other one, which is the same thing, but I cut off the neck to it, and it just covers up the hose coming out, is the same thing, but I have the flapper held open, and then I have I installed a brass drain, so that, because the plastic tubing coming out would get sun damage. So, and you can see here that after a bit, the amp draw is going down a little. I'll keep monitoring it to see if it ever gets down to 9 like they said. I don't know why the discrepancy, unless, you know, who knows. Okay, so how well does it work? Well, I have a 8 by 15 foot shed with about 120 square feet. I have R7, I believe, insulation, might be R5. You know, don't write the actual R rating on the insulation or anything. I have set this generally, and this was the same way it was with my old shed with an in-wall air conditioner. Generally, I had to come out about 6 in the morning and turn on the air conditioning, and then give it an hour or two to cool it down. Now this morning, the shop inside was about 85. It seemed to have been able to cool it down to about 75. Only thing the problem is right now it's not 75, it's about 78 or 80, because I've been turning this unit on and off, and it waits 3 minutes before it engages the compressor. But if left to run, and with the door shut, it seems to be able to get the temperature down to at least 75. I have had it, if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry, I have had it as high as 95 in here, and it got it down to 73. I haven't had a chance to really test it out. My experience with these air conditioning units is, even if this is a 12,000 BTU or supposedly a 7,000 BTU DOE BTUs, that it's the equivalent of a 1-ton air compressor, or air conditioner, it should theoretically be able to keep this thing pretty cool, but I've found that once it gets over 100 degrees outside, it just can't, they just can't keep up. I don't know if this unit can. Right now, it's not as nice as I'd like it. It's about 79 degrees in here. I suppose if I left it run for an hour, it might get it a little lower. Otherwise, it pretty much works as advertised. Oh, one more thing. The unit comes with two different size holes, or hoses. The intake hose is 6 inches, or it's actually 5.9 inches outside diameter. The exhaust hose is about 5 or 4.9 or 5 inches outside diameter. It's an unusual size, but the problem is that this is the intake hose. Okay, this is the exhaust hose. You can see it fits inside, but here's the thing. The outside are both 5 inches. They're both the same. So, and the holes on the back of the unit are the same. So I don't know if it really makes a difference that the exhaust hose is 6 inches. I accidentally hooked mine up wrong. I can fix it, but I'm not going to do it right now. It's too damn hot, and the unit seems to be working fine. But yeah, it's very weird because the 14,000 BTU units show both the same size hose, both using 5-inch hoses. So who knows why they did it this way? Oh, another thing is they have these curves, which are fine if you're putting it in a window, but if you're trying to do it like I did, where you're putting it right out of a wall, you really want a straight one, and they don't provide you with the straight one. So hopefully that's about it. Thanks for watching.